Welcome to Behind the Audition podcast with your host, Curt Hilton. Listen in on interviews with voiceovers, filmmakers, producers, animators, and much more. Curt, a voice actor himself, will give insider tips to the business, talk with guests about how they got into the business, and be sure to stay tuned to the end of the podcast when he challenges his guests with a pop-up audition. Now it's time for Behind the Audition podcast. Here's Curt Hilton.
Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Audition podcast. On this episode, I spoke to the master of monster and character voices, Lani Minella. Lani is known for her voices used in It Too, Ivy and Soul Calibur, Rogue the Bat in Sonic games, Adria the Witch in Diablo, and the Dropship Pilot in StarCraft 1 and 2, plus the Zerg Queen, tons of characters in the World of Warcraft, and more. We spoke how she landed one of these big roles, tips for your next audition, and how the world of voice acting has changed. And you don't want to miss her audition challenge line that I gave her. So sit back and enjoy another episode of Behind the Audition podcast. And coming to the show, the one, the only, my favorite voice actress, Lani Minella. How are you doing today?
Hi, it's great to be with you. Thanks, and I'm very honored.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to talk to you. I've talked to you on the phone before, and I call you the Queen of Voices because literally last time I talked to you, it was so cool. You're like the chameleon of voices. You change just real quick, and I love it. And I think there's nobody like you out there, and it's just an honor to have you on the show.
Gee, thanks. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my goodness. So how's everything going in California?
It's hot, but it's getting cooler, so everything is just fine. We can't complain, except I hope we can get through all the political and COVID stuff.
Exactly. So all the smoke clearing out finally after all this time?
We still have moderate air quality, which people are coughing and complaining about, but, you know, it's bound to get better.
Well, good. Well, you are the founder of Audio Gods, and like I was talking earlier, how did this business get started, and how did you get into the world of voice acting?
I believe that I was a mimic and a class clown all the time, and so I got in trouble a lot for imitating teachers and cracking up people in school. Then, as I graduated from college, I didn't have much to do with my English and art career, but I was hired while in college to work at a radio station being a production director, and they loved what I did. However, they didn't come up with any money. And so I spent then another 15 years in retail, and then went back and got into morning drive radio as a producer and producing things at the radio station. And somebody heard me do different voices. And they said, can you come up to this company? And we're pitching the Laserdisc. That goes way back. And they wanted me to do some voices from Fern Gully movie, which I didn't even know what that was. And they said, by the way, we have a kids CD-ROM department doing stuff downstairs. Go down and check in with them. And I didn't even know what a CD-ROM was. So I said, by the way, who else is doing this? And they go, I don't know. And I said, who else would know? And they go, why don't you go to like the CES show, Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas, which I did for 2 years. And then I also went to all these, Game Developer Conference and Electronic Entertainment Expo. And I found out that by handing people demo tapes and resumes, these people that are at trade shows are there to sell their product. And usually the people that hire you aren't there. And so there was some lady once behind me in line trying to wait for some demo guy at Electronic Entertainment thing. And she goes, well, I can do voices too. And I went, oh, that's part of the problem, you see, because producers thought that they have to hire everyone from one location. And especially with what's happening now with COVID, what a difference this has made. Because normally, I would drive up to LA to work. But now they are allowing so many people to work outside. I've even had one studio say that they are shipping portable sanitized gear to people's homes because one of the things is a lot of voice talent isn't really set up to be their own engineer and to record at home. So during this time, it's opened up the possibility for everyone all over not to have to physically be in the city. But that's what made me start my own Audio Guides, was to be a one-stop shop, to give everyone the chance of getting talent all around the world, and we all hook up via Skype to direct and then deliver the files, instead of relying on just one talent pool or having to go through agents, which can be a little bit cumbersome, at times. So I got into that, not to cast myself, but just to be able to make it easier on producers. And I think it's worked out well.
I was listening the other day to some of your stuff, and I listened to the It Too, the monster voices. And oh my goodness, you did so fantastic on that. How did that role come about?
Fortunately, I had somebody that was an audio guy in the game industry that went on to be an audio guy in producing sound effects and Foley for film. I didn't even know this, and they recommended me to Warner Brothers. And so I was called in. I was hired without knowing what, and I went up to the lot, and there was the director, and he was some, I think, Argentinian guy with a really thick accent. And when you're looping, they show you this giant screen, and you only have one earbud, and you can't even hear yourself talk, so they don't have your own mic fed into your ears. And then they just show you a scene, and they have a light bar that goes across, and then when the light bar reaches the far right-hand side, that's when you start talking. So they didn't have anything to audition with. They go, okay, here, what would you do for this? And then you have to come up, boom, and just come up with something on your own. And that's what was... This is great. This is the thing that a lot of voice talent don't realize, is that you have to conjure up something on the fly and be able to then change it slightly, like I would have done something more different, but when they said, yes, I want you to talk like that, I'm okay. They don't say, I want you to talk like that. You say, what would you think of for this? Like there was a spider named Steven, I don't know why, but, a headless guy on spider legs. And then they showed a picture of him. I went, how about... And they went, oh, yeah, that's fine. So, but he was also going, all these other weird things, but you have to come up with stuff. So that's how that came about. It was really great. And I thought it was, the movie's rather corny and way too long, but I felt so fortunate to be able to do things like that. And the same thing happened with me doing the clicker and the bloater, the infected for Last of Us, and then Last of Us 2. Someone from Blizzard recommended me, because I do a lot of creatures and things for them, to the people that were doing Last of Us. And so they said, okay, the infected are just kind of like walking zombies. And we had a whole hour of me watching somebody on the screen fall down and throw up and wriggle and have a stroke, and you have to do all this stuff continuously, And then at the end I go, I do some much more unusual and vicious sounding creatures and things. Oh, really? Like what? And I said, well, what do you have? And they said, we have these clickers. So I go, well, I never heard what a clicker did. I didn't know they were like, that kind of thing.
Wow.
But they go, okay, why don't you be a clicker and imagine that you're with these other clickers around a table, and there's a human strapped to the table, and you want to have sex with him. I'm like, huh? So, so on the way, I just did that one thing because we were out of time. So that's on the way home, my agent calls me and says, they want you for the bloater, which is the big end boss that looks like the Michelin Man guy. And these are all based on things that have been infected with cordyceps mushroom, fungus. So they develop into these mushroom-looking things. Anyway, so I said, can I do it from home? Not home, but a studio where I live. And they said yes. And then I go into the studio 2 days later, and they said, okay, our envisionment for the bloater is sort of a marine mammal, like a male seal having sex. I'm like... What? So I told him, male seals don't make sounds having sex. They make sounds when they're battling other male seals for the harem, And,
that's awesome.
So I had to, I had to do that for an hour. And so this is all the things that are so wonderful about being kind of known as the creature lady.
Oh, that's awesome. I was playing that clip the other day, and my oldest son were sitting there, and I'm terrified of all the It movies, but I'm the one that wakes up at 3 a.m, and I see it, and I tempt myself and I had watching it. And I played that one scene, and my son's like, Dad, what is that? I'm like, oh, it's this lady I'm going to interview. And he's like, turn it off. So you scared him. So good job.
Oh, good. Well, good. I don't want to. Yeah, that's the point of it. If it can be scary, fine. But sometimes it's just silly, like having sex. What's scary about that? But luckily that wasn't the It thing. They didn't tell me, imagine that you're a fire-headed witch having sex, so I was lucky on that.
So, going back to all those voices and, it does wear and tear on your throat. Are there tips for those that, who do this all day? Is there a certain tea, or is there something you do to help your throat so it doesn't get worn down too much?
No, you have to just reserve if you're doing a game that requires emotes like getting hit or hitting, attacking, dying, screaming, you just leave those to the end. And there are some where if like the type of voice where I don't really use a gravel, but I'm blowing air across my chords like that. If I am the hive mind doing that, that is really just flapping your chords together. One time I had to do that for like an hour. I was supposed to go longer, but my throat swelled up so bad, I couldn't even swallow water or honey.
Oh my goodness.
Or anything. If your throat does swell, one thing that can help is hot anything or warm anything. It can be water. It doesn't have to be tea. But all those throat sprays don't reach down into where your voice box is. You know what I mean? All you're doing is coating your throat. And people who drink a lot of water just have to go to the bathroom more. Because if you drink something that has a little bit of sugar in it, I drink Diet Coke or what have you, but that will coat your throat better because water washes away the slime coat that you have. So you are bound to get more clicky, more dry, clicky type of sounds if you rinse out your mouth too much. So I would say find whatever your favorite drink is that has a little bit of coating. Some people like Gatorade. For me, that's too puckery. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But whatever is something besides plain water sometimes I would recommend.
Wow, great tip. I just did something for somebody. It was a game show voice for like 5 minutes, and I had to yell and scream and do crazy. And I thought it was gonna be fine, and literally like 3 lines left, my voice started giving out, and that's a panic. And I'm like, I'm gonna ask her, because that is a true panic. You have to keep that voice, and you can't just say, oh, I can't do it. You know, you can't do that nowadays. But as for creating those characters you do you like creating original voices for your characters, or do you like just going for what they give you?
Oh, I think it's a bit of both. Whatever they give you is sometimes not what they end up wanting.
Okay.
I will give you a good example. For Medieval, they brought back Medieval, which was this Sony PlayStation game from 1996, and they were bringing it forward to the PS4. And they brought me in, and I was going to be the new narrator. They didn't replace any of the old voices. I don't know if you know the game. It's kind of a Tim Burton-y, Halloween-y, very cute-looking game. Very popular. And they originally asked for a game show announcer, like like a radio puker. And here we are, a radio puker. And I'm thinking, for this looking game, and we recorded about probably 20 minutes of that. And I said, are you sure this is working for you? And so they said, well, what do you have in mind? I said, what about something like a British Linda Hunt? Oh, that's great. Let's go with that. Let's start over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's sometimes you just have to offer things, not to be difficult, but to me, it just didn't fit. It was kind of a mysterious, spooky thing. So why am I talking like that?
Right,
It just seemed strange. So yes, I have recently worked, and I am working with a company whose idea is that they give me a clip from YouTube and it'll show some character that they like. And then they're thinking, okay, our envisionment of this character is to be like this guy here. And if they can look like it, even better, because we want the actor to send us a picture of them, and then they'll know the character better because they look like them.
Right.
Huh? Come on. I mean, no. So this worked for maybe a couple of people, but, then finally they chose another person that did not look at all like the character in Vision. And I'm like, see? Mm-hmm. And also I'm having a problem with casting because some of these companies are so wanting to be ethnically, culturally correct that now they have the term BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, People of Color. And so they, instead of casting on who's doing the best job, they're trying to say we have to cast a person that's actually Cuban to have a Hispanic accent, or we have to have an actual Hispanic person to play this character, or what have you, or an Asian person. And they don't want, but they're saying the accent doesn't matter. Huh? Well, then what are we going to do? An Ancestry.com to prove that somebody is this ethnicity?
Wow.
So that's also I think it's getting to the point of ridiculous. It's always great, and I do offer a lot of different actors that are culturally diverse the chance to audition, but I think they should be chosen on the basis of not their ethnicity solely, but whether they have done the best job. If they fit the audition, if they're the best actor, I think that's a better thing than just choosing someone based on their ethnicity, although it's great to offer everyone the choice. I think you have far less of a pool to choose from, like if you were trying to find a Brazilian or something like that. How many people are in that pool that can do different voice acting? It's far, far, far more limited.
Now, you are one of the best in the business as far as casting directors also. What are some of your expectations for some of your voice actors? Like, if I were to come to you, what's your expectations? Because I know some just think they can just be a voice actor and just, I'm going to get this role. What are some of the expectations you give?
Well, first of all, a lot of people don't realize they have to know how to record themselves,
Right.
Because in today's day, you have to be your own engineer and be able to ride gain. And some people are talked into buying large diaphragm microphones, which I think is a big mistake, especially if you're kind of starting out, because those pick up what's called room tone and make it sound like you're recording in an echoey bathroom. And you have to, therefore, be in a padded cell, basically. You have to work inside a booth or a closet and really soundproof your room. So that part of knowing that kind of a business and what microphones are better and easier and cheaper and would provide less problems, let's just say like a Shure SM58 and a Shure X2U preamp. Those would cost a total of $200 new. But then you have to get software, depending on if you're on a Mac or a PC. People get Audacity, which is free. So you have to know how to do all that, even to do auditions.
Right.
So I don't care that you have the most expensive, extensive studio, but you have to be able to record something decently and know how not to get P-pops and, that kind of deal. So part of that is technical, okay? And the other part is being able to control your voice. And in the case of games, most likely you're going to have to do different parts because they don't write enough lines per part, so I can hire one actor per role. So you have to be diverse in terms of age, in terms of pitch, in terms of maybe texture, whether you're going to have this or maybe a fine texture or no texture. And the accents that are the most used would probably be received pronunciation, dry British like Patrick Stewart, not Cockney or anything like that. And maybe for a spy or something, perhaps Middle Eastern or Russian. And then all the rest of the accents would fall way down the wayside. And as far as the soldier games, like, Command and Conquer or what have you, sometimes they might allow a guy to be like, sir, yes, sir, have a little bit of a, not Southern like a drawl, but more like a Houston kind of an accent. I think those, having a little more diversity that way is great. In terms of females, there are very few games that I cast for that want like the anime, like, oh my God, what are you doing? Going to Encino? They don't want the chipmunk anime type of a sound. Most of them want females with a lower or tougher, I don't know if you want to be a Klingon, but you have to be like, get away from me, like a guard. You have to be much more villainous or tough, because nobody wants like, okay, I'm going to go fight for you, whatever. That's not wanted. And people who say, okay, I can do different voices and I can be a witch or I can be New York. No. And that's another thing on your demos. When people just send out demos, that's not a great idea, because in my case and in several cases, well, there's two ways of looking at it. On one hand, you can be a lot worse than your demo because it took you a long time to perfect that demo.
Right.
And then maybe you're not able to perform on command in real time. Or on the other hand, maybe you have a lot more to offer than the minute and 30, which is about as long as you want a demo to be. It's just a kind of a limited thing. A lot of people take classes and think, okay, the class includes $2,000 for a demo. I've taken my class. I'm qualified. I'm going to send out this demo. First of all, agents really aren't taking on a lot of new people. If they are, the most likely way you can get in there is to find a mentor of the opposite sex, because this business is pretty competitive. And I doubt very seriously if I will help other women, yes, but a lot of men won't want to introduce you to their agent because, you might take their job away. So you find usually a mentor that can introduce you to their agent. That's the best way, because sending out cold demos, you're going to be put in a pile. I get this all the time. Listen to my stuff. I like to be part of your talent pool. I have to talk to somebody, like I talk to you, and I don't put people through paces to go, oh no, you're not any good. But it's just the fact that if you were to try, if I said, give me a gravelly voice like that, and even if you tried and couldn't do it, I'm going to give you a technical way of growl like a dog. Now try talking like that. The fact if you were to try what I tell you tells me you're directable.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
right.
that you're nice enough to try, which is really what I look for in talent. That's a long way of answering that question, but that's what I look for, is somebody that has diversity, knows how to record themselves, and can send me a test file maybe, and make sure that they're all what we call dry, so somebody doesn't sound like they're all up close and personal with the proximity or bassy effect of a large diaphragm microphone, and the fact that you are able to take direction and have voice control. Because a lot of times if I say, give me a gravelly voice, somebody may start out like that, but then they fall in and out of it because they don't know what they're doing. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it doesn't mean that I try and typecast people. I definitely try to give people all kinds of different opportunities. But I think that's what I look for, is diversity. And in terms of diversity of the types of voices, pitches, and accents that I can use.
I love it. When we talked in the past, I took your advice, 2 things actually, that I want to give you credit for. We talked about demos and cold auditions. I think the cold audition, not like maybe you call it a cold audition, but audition on the spot, I think that is the best example for any voice actor for getting in the game, because your demos I listened to my demos from the past. I'm like, wow, that was awful. And I mean, I've sent you stuff, and I want to give you credit for this too. You could tell that I wasn't moving in the character that I auditioned for. And now people come in, like when I'm in the booth, my family probably thinks I'm nuts. I'm like knocking stuff over. I'm like crazy, like this all over, and it's working. And I want to say thank you for that. Good.
Yes, that's a general thing that you can always tell when people are just reading. And if you look at some of the celebrities that they take these YouTube videos of celebrities doing parts for Pixar or whatever, they're just standing there. Maybe they have a pencil in one hand or something, but they don't give the animators anything to work with. And see, this is where I wanted to get into a Pixar or Disney movie. That was my ideal thing. And I thought that by getting into games, I could get a demo, and no, good luck with that. I'm not a celebrity. Right. You have to almost be a celebrity. But the thing that's different about animation versus games, animation, they over-animate even the dull-looking people, you know what I mean, to make it more exciting. Whereas in games, we have to use our voices and put the movement into the parts, which is why you need to move to show the motion. If you're going to do an attack, like doing a backhanded tennis thing, what have you, it allows you to put the energy. And a lot of people you don't have to stand. It depends on how talented you are. Right. But if you sit, sometimes your energy goes into your butt. And if you stand there with your hands folded like a fig leaf or in your pockets or whatever, it tightens you up. It constrings you like you're in a cocoon. You know what I mean? So you don't have that freedom of going outside the box.
Now, if you were to choose, would you prefer more video games or animation cartoons?
Well, it depends on what you're talking about. I'd ideally, of course, like to be in a Disney or Pixar movie. It depends. Like some of the Adult Swim cartoons, I look at and I kind of go, huh? Right. So I think it depends on the cartoon. I would love to have animation stuff. It would be wonderful. I think it'd be, ideal. But again, it depends. Some of the cartoons look like they're very poorly drawn, or the characters are very, I don't know, let's just call King of the Hill. Okay.
Right.
I thought that was really kind of okay, but not exciting. Wow, I'd rather be on The Simpsons. No way, dude. Yeah, sure. But that's already filled, and it just depends. I will take gladly whatever parts are given to me. I'm not all that picky, but I won't do political or porn.
Just plain and simple. I love it. And, I think that video games are more popular than movies nowadays, wouldn't you think? Or wouldn't you say?
Well, now that nobody can go to movies.
I mean, I guess let's start that one over. Netflix. I mean, I guess, Netflix, everybody's streaming movies, and there's a million animation movies on Netflix and a million video games, but I still think video games are just taking over everything nowadays.
Well, let's put it this way. You can play a video game a lot longer to pass the time and become more addicted to it than just watching a movie and then it's over with. So in terms of a prolonged audience, yes, video games do addict you and try to keep you playing, especially the massive multiplayer, online role play games, because it's no ending. It's always you're involved with other people, and it's a constant thing. So in terms of money makers, yes, I think that video games make a constant source, especially with the microtransactions, where people are purchasing health or uniforms or flying mounts and things. It's a constant source of income, where if you go to a movie, people are just going in there and buying it once, or they have their Netflix thing. And by the way, the residuals that are offered to actors right now, for whether it's, if you're in the union, if you're non-union, you don't get any. But if you're in the union, the residuals have gone down considerably since there's a new category that includes the streaming things. So like if I'm on Justice League or Cleveland show, I will get some residuals, but you can get as low now as a penny.
Wow.
Because they've just lowered the value, because it's not on network, it's on all these streaming and web type of things. So the union has negotiated a lower residual payment, but we don't get residuals for games. The way that people get paid if they are in the union is that they'll do a session plus a $75 bonus for the first session of that game, which is usually the only session for that release. And instead of residuals, then if you had a second session, it's $150, bonus. So you don't get continual residuals for any games.
Wow. Well, a couple more questions here. I did see that you got to do some Disneyland and Lego rides. How fun was that?
This was before Lego even opened down here. And so it was interesting because we had no idea what we were going to be doing. And then they let us in before it opened, and I saw a few things. But Disney was Magic Kingdom game. And that was interesting because they had all these lands like Frontierland. I was in there, but then somebody got a hold of it and decided, that might scare kids, so we're going to make it all lavender and pastel, and we're only going to use the blah, blah, blah. So it got whittled down to be pretty nothing. So it's always fun to do all these new things, and it's just classic. Like I was, I think it was a part of a robot that sat next to you in one of these virtual roller coasters for the Disney Quest, which is not even there anymore, right? And I had to be like, you would design your own roller coaster, and so I had to make noises like if you were swinging left really quick or swinging right really quick or doing a like whoa, ah, whoa, yeah. What, and it was so funny because you had rule by committee, and they were saying, "Oh, that's too scary. I'll make this little." It's like you have to make everything for Disney more Winnie the Pooh. You know what I mean? So it was interesting to do that, but it's amazing. The more cooks that are in there, sometimes it can get strange. But I was the voice of the promo for the World of Avatar for the Disney thing, and they hired me thinking I was Caribbean. They'll say, "Come to a world with mystical mountains and a magical river," and then they found out I wasn't. But then they kept pulling the accent back, and then at the end, the tagline, "Now at what was that, Disney World Resort?" They wanted the same voice with no accent for the tagline. Huh? So there's just, this world is so full of very strange enigmas and situations that you just have to roll with the punches. You can't question the validity or the rationale of what's going on because there's really a lack of it.
I think that's so cool. I think that'd be really neat to, tell your kids, family members, hey, I was part of that ride at Disneyland or Legoland, where have you. But, it's time to have some fun. It's the Audition Challenge. This is where my guests, you're going to love this, my guests get to read a line, and any line, or any character, I should say, that they think fits this part. And I'm going to give you this script. You ready to have some fun?
Okay.
All right. So the line is, well, so you think you're going to grab the last tube of disinfecting wipes. Think again.
Oh my goodness. So so you think you're going to grab the last two disinfecting wipes? Think again.
That is why you are the queen of voice acting. Thank you so much, Lani Minella, for being on the show. You are truly the best. I love following you online. For those who want to follow her, you can follow her on LaniMinella.com or AudioGods.com. And if there's anything last you'd like to tell us for those getting into voice acting, go ahead.
Have a very thick skin. Don't
Yes.
give up, and realize that we never hear back when we do auditions. It's kind of like putting your auditions in a black hole. Right? When I audition people for a certain part, I tend to go back, and if I am alerted as to who got the part, I will tell everyone who didn't get the part, thank you very much. It was assigned to something else, and sometimes lately I've been attaching the role of the winner so they can see how either ludicrous or weird it is. But this is in the world that you are in. If you're a voiceover actor, you never find out, really, unless you get the part. You don't know if you were submitted. You don't know who got the part. So you really just have to have a good sense of humor. And once you submit your audition, forget about it. You know what I mean? Just go on to the next thing and have fun. And, just realize that you are a wonderful person. You, Curt, and people out there, don't think less of yourself because you're not landing things, because I don't land a lot of things I audition for. Trust me. So you just have to know that this world is filled with people that will either choose winners that you scratch your head and go, I don't get it. You know what I mean? Or you just never find out. Mm-hmm. So, have fun, do what you like to do, and just realize that there are tons of other people out there competing with you. And so there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's probably a more fun job than digging ditches, that's for sure. And just like I say, where there's a will, there's a way, and hang in there. Don't take classes from people who are just out to take your money. This is the one warning signal I want to put out there, is that look on IMDb or look and see if they are active casting director. It's okay to take a course from a casting director that may not teach you much, but that's called the paid audition. You know what I mean? You're paying to be seen by that. That's okay. But for God's sake, don't just take these classes that cost a fortune, taught to you by find your motivation and your subtext and all this other, practice your tongue twisters, Patty had a pack a bitter better, oh, no. And then you pay for a demo, because that's a complete waste of time. So if anybody's interested, I am a coach. I don't make money really that much from coaching, but it is advisable to be careful where you spend your money. And as I said before, don't buy the most expensive large diaphragm microphones, because if you have to self-engineer and you are in a booth, then every time you have to adjust your level, let's say you, like you said, maybe you have to yell, but you went from talking normally to having to yell. Okay. Mm-hmm. You have to go and adjust your gain. Where are you going to do that? Unless you have the stuff inside your booth or inside your closet, it's going to be a pain in the butt for you to be able to adjust your gain so you don't clip or distort. So just, I'm happy to answer any questions or help anybody as much as I can. And I want you to know you're one of the most talented people and the nicest people I've ever met.
Oh my gosh, that means a lot. That really means a lot. You're the best. And I always make sure that everybody checks out your pages and just keep scaring us with your voices and just keep motivating us. You're the best, Lani, and thank you so much for being on the show.
And click on my IMDb page. That would help.
Yes. I'll retweet it every time. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Lani Minella.
Thanks for listening in on Behind the Audition podcast, made possible by Hilton Productions. If you need a male or female voiceover, contact us at hiltonproductions.com. Hilton Productions. Let our voices do the selling.